In an age of hyperconnectivity, our greatest struggle isn't a lack of opportunity but an abundance of it. We are bombarded by a relentless stream of data, urgent emails, and the crushing social pressure to be everywhere at once. We've been conditioned to believe that more is the benchmark for success, more side hustles, more social engagements, and more possessions. Yet, despite this frantic accumulation, many of us feel more hollow and overwhelmed than ever before. We are running in place, exhausted by the friction of a life that has become too heavy to carry. This is where the ancient wisdom of Stoicism meets the modern need for simplicity. The Stoics were the original masters of focus. They understood that a cluttered mind is a vulnerable mind. They taught that the path to a tranquil and effective life isn't found in chasing every shiny object, but in the radical act of subtraction. The Stoic rule of 3 is a practical framework designed to strip away the non-essential. It provides a mental filter to separate the signal from the noise, helping you reclaim your time, your energy, and your peace of mind. By narrowing your focus to just 3 core pillars of action and thought, you stop reacting to the world and start commanding your place within it. It's time to stop managing the chaos and start eliminating it. Join our community of modern Stoics. If you're ready to stop the grind and start living with intention, hit the subscribe button now. We provide the blueprints you need to build a resilient, simplified, and high-impact life every single week. The modern human condition can be summarized by a single, exhausting paradox. We have more tools than ever to save time, yet we have never felt more rushed. We are living through an era of functional overload. The everything is important trap is the invisible weight pulling us under, a psychological phenomenon where the distinction between a critical priority and a minor distraction has been completely erased. In this state, our focus is not a laser, it is a mist, spread so thin that it lacks the power to impact anything. The death of discernment. The root of the problem lies in the erosion of discernment. Historically, humans had natural boundaries. Information travelled slowly, work stayed at the office, and our social circles were limited to those we could physically see. Today, those boundaries have dissolved. Through the glowing rectangle in your pocket, the entire world has a direct line to your nervous system. When your boss's quick question carries the same notification weight as a breaking news alert, a message from your mother, and an automated discount code from a clothing brand, your brain begins to treat them with equal gravity. This is cognitive leveling. If everything is presented as urgent, the brain loses the ability to categorize importance. We find ourselves answering a non-essential email with the same intensity we should be reserving for our deepest life goals. We have lost the ability to say, "This does not matter." The myth of multitasking. To cope with this influx, we fell for the great lie of the 21st century, multitasking. We believed we could expand our bandwidth to match the world's output. But the human brain is not a parallel processor, it is a serial one. When we attempt to juggle 5 important tasks at once, we aren't actually doing them simultaneously. Instead, we are engaging in context switching. Every time you pivot from a meaningful project to check a quick notification, you pay a switching cost. Research suggests it can take upwards of 23 minutes to regain deep focus after a single interruption. By treating everything as important, we live in a state of perpetual recovery. We are never fully in the moment or the task. We are always halfway between the last distraction and the next demand. This leads to a life of thin living, plenty of activity but no depth, the architecture of anxiety. The everything is important. Trap doesn't just hurt our productivity, it wreaks havoc on our mental health. Stoicism teaches us that much of our suffering comes from our judgments about the world, rather than the world itself. When we judge every task, every request, and every social obligation as essential, we create a mental environment of constant threat. If everything is important, then every unread email is a failure, every missed event is a catastrophe, and every unfinished to-do list item is a moral shortcoming. This creates a state of chronic hypervigilance. Our nervous systems are stuck in a fight-or-flight response because we feel we are failing 100 different masters at once. We are tired not because we are doing too much, but because we are caring about too much. We are carrying the weight of 1,000 shoulds that have no bearing on our actual character or well-being. The social pressure of total availability, Compounding this internal struggle is the external pressure of the always-on culture. We live in a society that fetishizes busyness. We wear our exhaustion like a badge of honor, equating a packed calendar with a meaningful life. If we aren't doing, we feel we aren't being. This cultural narrative forces us to say yes to everything: the committee meeting, the happy hour, the extra project, the social media trend. We fear that by prioritizing we are missing out. FOMO. We fear that if we declare only 3 things important, we will be seen as lazy or unmotivated. But the Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius, understood the opposite. If you seek tranquility, do less, or, more accurately, do what is essential, which brings a double satisfaction: to do less, better. By failing to choose what matters, we allow our environment to choose for us. If you do not prioritize your life, someone else will. Your inbox, your feed, and the whims of others will become the architects of your existence. The dilution of greatness. Perhaps the most tragic consequence of the everything is important. Trap is the mediocrity it breeds. Greatness requires obsession. It requires the ability to say no to 1,000 good ideas to say yes to one great one. When you treat everything as important, you give 10% of your effort to 10 different things. You end up with 10 unfinished or average results. You become a jack of all trades, master of none, not by choice, but by exhaustion. You never experience the compounding returns of deep work because you're too busy skimming the surface of 100 different pools. You're making a millimeter of progress in a million directions, rather than a mile of progress in one. The breaking point. Eventually, the system fails. Burnout isn't just physical exhaustion. It's the total collapse of the everything is important framework. It's the moment the brain realizes it can no longer sustain the lie that everything matters equally. We reach a point where the sheer volume of priorities causes us to freeze. This is analysis paralysis. Faced with 50 things that all feel essential, we end up doing none of them, retreating instead into low-value distractions like mindless scrolling or television, just to numb the sensation of being overwhelmed. We become spectators in our own lives, because the cost of participating, the cost of trying to handle it all, has become too high. Conclusion: the need for the knife. The everything is important. Trap is a prison with open doors. We stay inside because we are afraid that letting go of a task means letting go of a piece of ourselves. But the Stoic path suggests that true freedom is found in the ruthless application of the knife. To escape the trap, we must accept a painful truth. Most things don't matter. Most emails don't need an immediate reply. Most social obligations don't improve your life. Most of the emergencies that fill your day are actually just other people's lack of planning. Recognizing the trap is the first step. The second step is realizing that you are the one holding the keys. You have the permission and the duty to decide what deserves your finite time and energy. The rule of 3 isn't just a productivity hack. It is a declaration of independence from a world that wants to steal your focus. It is the remedy for a life lived in the everything and the beginning of a life lived in the essential. To escape the everything is important trap, we must move beyond mere time management and enter the realm of judgment management. The Stoics believed that the world provides us with raw data, but it is our assent, our internal agreement, that gives that data power over us. Filtering reality is the process of putting every external demand, thought, and emotion through a rigorous sieve before allowing it to occupy space in your mind. The Stoic rule of 3 provides 3 distinct filters to help you navigate the chaos of the modern world. By applying these, you don't just organize your life, you fundamentally change how you perceive it. Filter 1. The 3 spheres of control. The most famous Stoic teaching, the dichotomy of control, is often misunderstood as a binary choice. In reality, it is more effective to view it through 3 spheres. This filter allows you to instantly discard 90% of your modern anxieties. 1. The internal sphere, total control. This includes your character, your intentions, your voluntary actions, and how you choose to interpret events. This is the only place where your rule of 3 priorities should live. 2. The external sphere, zero control. This includes the past, the weather, the global economy, and, most importantly, the opinions and actions of other people. 3. The mixed sphere, influence not control. These are outcomes. You can train for a race, internal, but you cannot guarantee you will win, external. The practice. When a problem arises, ask, which sphere does this belong to? If it's external, you must practice amor fati, love of fate, and let it go. If it's mixed, you shift your goal from the outcome, I must get the promotion, to the internal process, I will do my best work today. By filtering for control, you stop leaking energy into voids where you have no power. Filter 2. The 3 daily essentials, the rule of 3. Once you have cleared the clutter of things you cannot control, you are left with your own actions. However, even within our control, we often overcommit. This is where the rule of 3 becomes a tactical weapon. Most people start their day with a to-do list of 20 items. Psychologically, this is a recipe for failure. You see 20 items, you know you can't do them all, so you subconsciously choose the easiest, least important tasks just to feel a sense of completion. This is called productive procrastination. The practice. Before you open your laptop or check your phone, identify the 3 essentials. These are the 3 tasks that, if completed, would make the day a success regardless of what else happens. 1 high-leverage task, something that moves the needle on a long-term goal, e.g., writing 1,000 words of your book. 1 maintenance task, something that prevents future chaos, e.g., clearing your financial accounts. 1 connection, self-task, something that feeds your character, e.g., a focused workout or a meaningful conversation with a spouse. By limiting yourself to 3, you force a brutal prioritization. You're no longer asking what could I do, but what must I do? If you finish these 3 and have energy left, everything else is a bonus, not a requirement. This shifts your brain from a deficit mindset, I didn't finish the list, to a surplus mindset, I conquered the essentials. Filter 3, the 3 temptations, the subtraction filter. The final stage of filtering reality is identifying the trifles, the modern temptations that Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius warned would steal our lives if we let them. In the 21st century, these aren't just physical vices, they're digital and psychological drains. To simplify your life, you must identify your 3 personal temptations. For most of us, they fall into these categories. 1. The temptation of total availability, the urge to respond to every notification the moment it arrives. 2. The temptation of social comparison, the habit of measuring your internal reality against someone else's curated online highlight reel. 3. The temptation of just one more video, 1 more scroll, 1 more minor task before starting the real work. The practice. Every morning, name the 3 temptations that are most likely to derail you that day. By naming them, you strip them of their autopilot power. You're effectively saying, I see you, and I am choosing not to give you my assent. Why the number 3? You might wonder why we don't choose 1 or 5. The number 3 is a cognitive sweet spot. 1 is too fragile. If that one thing fails, the day feels like a total loss. 5 is too many. It allows for the everything is important trap to creep back in. 3 provides enough variety to feel productive, but enough constraint to ensure focus. It creates a triad of stability that the human brain can easily track without writing it down. The development of high resolution. Living when you apply these filters, your reality becomes high resolution. Instead of seeing a blurry wall of stress, you see 3 distinct things to do, 3 things to ignore, and a clear boundary of where your power ends. This isn't about being productive in the corporate sense, it's about being effective in the human sense. You're developing the inner citadel. When a crisis hits, you don't panic because you've already filtered for control. When a distraction lures you, you don't bite because you've already identified your 3 essentials. You're no longer a leaf blown by the wind of every notification, you are the wind itself. You have moved from a life of reaction to a life of intention. This is the development of the Stoic mind, the ability to look at a chaotic world and see only the few, vital threads that require your hand. There is a specific quiet moment in the journey of simplification where the floor drops out from under your old way of thinking. It isn't a loud epiphany, it's a sudden, chillingly clear realization. You're standing in the middle of your usual chaotic Tuesday. Emails are piling up, the news is grim, and your personal to-do list is mocking you. And suddenly, you see the truth. The weight that is crushing you isn't the work you're doing. It is the weight of the things you're carrying that do not belong to you. This is the climax of the Stoic rule of 3. It is the moment you move from trying to be organized to becoming unshakable. The illusion of responsibility for years, you have likely operated under a false moral contract. You believed that to be a good person, a productive employee, or a caring friend, you had to maintain an emotional investment in everything that touched your life. You felt a responsibility to have an opinion on every headline, a duty to solve every colleague's lack of planning, and a necessity to worry about a future that hasn't happened yet. The aha moment happens when you realize this isn't noble, it's arrogant. To worry about what you cannot control is to believe that your anxiety is a magic spell that can alter the fabric of reality. It can't. When you finally grasp the 3 spheres of control, you don't just manage your stress, you delete it. You realize that carrying the zero control bucket is like trying to carry a backpack full of rocks up a mountain while complaining that the mountain is too steep. The mountain isn't the problem. The rocks are. And the best part, you are the one who picked them up. Dropping the weight. Imagine the physical sensation of dropping those rocks. When you decide, with radical Stoic clarity, that other people's opinions of you belong in the zero control bucket, you don't just feel better, you feel lighter. When you realize that the 3 daily essentials are the only things that require your soul's attention, the rest of the world's noise begins to dim. It's like being in a crowded shouting room and suddenly putting on noise-cancelling headphones. The people are still shouting. The chaos hasn't vanished. The economy is still volatile, the internet is still outraged, and your neighbour is still annoying. But for the first time, it stops mattering. This is the climax. The transition from being a victim of circumstance to being the master of your own attention. You realize that while you cannot control the wind, you are the absolute master of your sails. The birth of the inner citadel. Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about the inner citadel. This wasn't a metaphorical fortress built of stone, but a mental state built of boundaries. The moment of radical clarity is when you realize that your mind is the only place you truly live. If you allow every important trifle to enter that space, you are living in a slum. But when you apply the rule of 3, you are building walls. You're saying, only these 3 things are allowed in. Everything else must wait at the gate. By narrowing your focus, you are no longer spread thin. Think of the difference between a flood and a pressure washer. A flood covers a vast area but has no power. It just makes everything soggy. A pressure washer takes that same amount of water, restricts it through a tiny nozzle, and gains the power to cut through grime, wood, and even stone. When you focus your entire being on your 3 essentials, you become that pressure washer. You become a citadel, unshakable. Not because you are cold or unfeeling, but because you are no longer structurally compromised by 1,000 leaks in your attention. The freedom of I don't have an opinion on that. One of the most liberating realizations in this climax is the power of intellectual and emotional poverty. We think we need to be informed and involved in everything. The Stoic realization is that you have the right to not have an opinion. In this moment of clarity, you see that your energy is a finite resource, like a bank account. Every time you worry about a zero-control event, you are spending money you don't have. When the aha moment hits, you stop spending. You become stingy with your peace of mind. You look at a brewing drama or a trivial distraction and say, that doesn't deserve my currency. This isn't an act of selfishness, it's an act of preservation. By saving your energy for the 3 things that actually matter, you have enough left over to be truly present for the people you love and the work that defines your legacy. The silence of the essential. The climax of this journey leads to a strange, beautiful silence. When you're no longer trying to do everything, the frantic buzzing in your brain stops. You start to move with a different kind of pace, a Stoic urgency. It is a pace that is fast but never hurried, intense but never panicked. You realize that the everything is important trap was a form of cowardice, a way to avoid the hard work of choosing what truly matters. Choosing is risky. If you only choose 3 things and fail at them, you have no excuses. But if you try to do 100 things and fail, you can blame the system or the busyness. The moment of clarity is accepting the risk of focus. It is the brave act of putting all your chips on 3 squares and playing the game with everything you've got. Transitioning to the new reality. Once you've experienced this moment, you can't go back. You've seen behind the curtain. You've felt what it's like to work on an essential task with a clear mind, unburdened by the rocks of external validation or uncontrollable outcomes. You are now standing in the center of your citadel. The world outside may be on fire, but inside there is an orderly workshop. There are 3 tools on the table. There is one path forward. The weight is gone, and for the first time in your life, you aren't just busy. You're effective. You are free. You are. Living lean isn't about deprivation. It's about distillation. Through the lens of the Stoic rule of 3, we've shifted from a life of frantic accumulation to one of intentional precision. We have identified that the overwhelming weight we carry is rarely composed of our actual work, but rather the emotional baggage of things we cannot control and the trifles that hijack our attention. By adopting this framework, you commit to a daily ritual of clarity. 1. Release the external. You stop hemorrhaging energy into the zero control bucket, accepting that the world will be chaotic, but your mind doesn't have to be. 2. Execute the essential. You bypass decision fatigue by ruthlessly narrowing your daily focus to 3 high-leverage tasks. 3. Starve the temptations. You protect your inner citadel by identifying and eliminating the 3 distractions that steal your agency. When you live lean, you become a citadel, unshakable, focused, and profoundly effective. You trade the shallow satisfaction of being busy for the deep fulfillment of being purposeful. The chaos of the modern world doesn't disappear, it simply loses its power over you. You're no longer a victim of your circumstances, but the architect of your focus. Knowledge without action is just a sophisticated form of distraction. To break the everything is important trap, you must start small and start now. Pick one specific area of your life, your career, your physical health, or your most important relationship. Apply the rule of 3 by identifying the 3 most impactful actions you can take in that area today. Not tomorrow, today. Drop your just one essential action in the comments below. By declaring it, you move it from a vague thought to a concrete commitment. Let's hold each other accountable to the essential.